So the doctor told me to just go ahead and keep him at home, that this is common with the flu. And I reminded this pediatrician who we hadn't worked with before, but I reminded him that, my child has had multiple pneumonias and has been diagnosed with childhood asthma. And he said, yeah, I know, but he's 11 or 12. He should be growing out of that asthmatic phase. And he said, as a matter of fact, I was, they told me that they're actually reducing his steroids because they think it's too much and he's getting too old to be on this many steroids. So I called my mom in a panic, and my mom said, let's take him to the doctor. Let's take him. She said, he's sick. We've done this before, so let's just get him in. So my mom and I scooped him up and ran him into the hospital. When we got to the hospital, they were stunned at his condition. They couldn't believe that the doctor wanted him home. And I don't blame the doctor. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, he wasn't there. He didn't get to see him. And kids do get sick and parents do panic. And I was actually a nurse I am a nurse, but I was a nurse at that time. I'm not a pediatric nurse, and I hadn't been a nurse for very long. So I didn't really, understand what they were saying. But they did tell me, they said he was very sick and that they needed to start running some tests on him. And the first thing they did was try and get urine out of him, which of course there wasn't much. And they said, that's unusual. Even for kids that have a fever or are really sick, they still are producing urine. And your son's urine is very concentrated, like as if he's not peeing. And I said, I know. He actually has that problem that he doesn't pee very often. And actually, since he'd gotten older, I remember his pee was very stinky, like it was concentrated, even though he drank plenty. And again, it was ignored. So they went ahead and they ran it, and they said he had a UTI, that he had a severe UTI, and that they didn't believe he even had pneumonia, that he actually had a urinary tract infection. And one of the residents who was there at this children's hospital, it's actually a big children's hospital, looked at him and said, you know what, it looks weird. His back looks weird. It almost looks like it's quivering. He said, I think something's going on with his kidneys. And they, of course, said he had a UTI. He said, no, I think there's something else. So they immediately took him for a scan. And it's a scan where they put a Foley in this little boy, and they fill up his bladder and send him with some nuclear medicine and send him through a nuclear scan to see what's happening in his urinary tract system. And that's when he was diagnosed with something called VUR. And that's where the ureters are incompetent. They're not good ureters. And the ureter is what connects the kidney to the bladder on both sides. There's a kidney, and then there's ureters in the bladder. And his ureters were incompetent. They were short, and they were floppy. And so what they always thought was an asthma attack was actually him just retaining his own urine back into his system. It was quickly discovered. And we were sent straight to a pediatric urologist. And unfortunately, there was one, because not every city has one, I guess. They're kind of a rare deal. So we sent him to we went to the pediatric urologist, and he was diagnosed with VUR grade 5, which is the worst grade. He said that he needed to have an operation right away. But it would be complicated because usually kids with VUR are found out very early on.